Hey, Jared.
Hey, good
Hey,
evening.
Nick. Good evening.
Hey, how you guys doing?
Good.
Doing well, doing well.
That's what I like to hear. It's a beautiful day, beautiful evening.
All right, all right. Thanks everybody for popping in. This is Break Into Tech, Surprising Ways to Get Noticed. We're going to have a great panel today. We'll have some surprise guests come up on the stage. So yeah, we're just going to give people a couple minutes to jump in, and then we can get started with introductions and get the conversation going. Nice to meet you, Nick.
Nice to meet you as well. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Absolutely. All right, I'm going to just start inviting some people in as well.
So, Nick, did you teach any classes today?
Not today. Yesterday we had an awesome offer negotiation class. We actually just had our record broken for highest offer yesterday. So successfully.
Oh, wow.
Um,
Are you allowed to say what that was?
Am I allowed to say what that was? Yeah, I can do that. Let me get the exact so I don't misquote it. But yes, we saw an offer for 858 yesterday, 858,000. So that was a pretty fun session to conduct. But no classes today. Just hanging out with you guys tonight.
Nice. Well,
All
we're
right.
more fun anyway.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and get started. So, yeah, my name is Jared Albritton. I've been in the tech space for 15 years and, broke into tech when I was 23 at IBM. And then, subsequently never really had to never put in an application for a role again. And the big portion of that was really about building a network and networking my way into different opportunities, and also having great relationships at every company that I was at, so that when they left the company, they always wanted to pull me in as a referral or as a hiring manager to bring me on their team because they know how, I would perform. So we're going to talk about some of the surprising ways to get noticed, and other ways to break into tech. And we're going to pull people from the audience that I know have a lot of experience. So everybody in the audience that I see, we're going to pull you up soon. But before we do, I would love for, Nick, Proceed, and Soham to introduce themselves. And then we can kind of just get the conversation going. So let's start with Nick.
Awesome. Thanks, Jared. Hi, I'm Nick Camilleri. I head up the career coaching org here at Interview Kickstart. I've been with IK for, 4.5 years now. It's been an awesome journey so far.
Yeah.
I know. So I'm still putting up with me. It's crazy. It's been a wild ride. I've been able to work with somewhere between 4,000 to 5,000 students in their career transitions while at IK. Prior to that, I did some independent coaching, had my own little practice, did some recruiting at a startup. Before that, I was at LinkedIn, where I facilitated the hiring committees and approved the hires for about 200 senior level engineering individuals. But really just love to see people succeed in their careers. And that's why I'm here. That's a little bit about me.
Awesome. Proceed. You want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. So my role is I'm basically a fractional CMO, which means I am the head of marketing for a couple different companies at the same time. Prior to that, I was the head of marketing for a fintech company called EasyKnock. Prior to that, head of marketing for Codecademy, which is the one that most people have heard of. 50, 75 million users, self-serve, learn to code platform. And then earlier in my career, I was director of marketing at SoFi, which has been in the news a lot lately because it's going to be, in theory, it's about to become Chamath's second SPAC that goes IPO anytime now. So that's and I started my career at Microsoft in marketing.
Awesome. Thanks, Proceed. And Soham.
Hey, Jared, thank you. Thank you. It's good seeing you again. Folks, my name is Soham. I happen to run Interview Kickstart today for the last about 6 years. And before that, I was at Box. I happened to join them pretty early and all the way through IPO. And in general, my career has been in core tech. I have had the fortune to work with a lot of people from all different sides of tech and seeing their careers develop in tech. As well. Happy to be with everybody today.
Awesome. And thanks, Jess, for popping up. Appreciate you. So I want to have Nick. I see your profile. All right, coach 5,000 plus software engineers. Served on the hiring committee for over 200 engineering hires. So from your perspective, what were the things that you use in your career to get noticed in tech, and what are the things you tell aspiring software engineers to get noticed by the companies they want to break into?
Yeah, that's a great question, man. I think the biggest thing that I've followed personally, I had the fortune early in my career to have a few friends that were a little bit older than me and had successful starts to their career that really just followed their interests. Just try to look for companies, for roles that were really engaging with them, and just kind of use that as the North Star. What kind of contribution do I want to make? Where do I want to be? And eventually you start to carve out a niche, right? And so when I was thinking about my own career, I really just knew that I wanted to help people get to a stage that they couldn't get to, without help, right? And so I just looked for any opportunities that I could to do that, right? Speaking opportunities at universities. If somebody said, "Hey, we want to talk about career development at our university," I was like, "Yeah, let's do it." If I saw a role that was in talent acquisition that was at a company that seemed interesting to me, it's like, all right, let's give it a try. And once I started to kind of carve out that niche, I looked for people that were equally driven by the same mission and shared kind of this common set of values, and really just we learned together. And so when I'm working with engineers, I suggest to do the same, right? There's lots of companies out there hiring engineers. There's like lots of different tools you can gravitate towards, product types you can gravitate towards. But if you consistently move towards an area of interest, you're going to nerd out about it, right? You're going to keep the Friday nights or the Saturday mornings, like you're going to want to keep going and learning more about it, and eventually that starts to bear fruit. So that's kind of how I started to slowly carve out my niche.
Gotcha. No, that's great stuff, Nick. And proceed. Same question for you. What are some things that you've seen work for people to get noticed by the companies they want to break into, traditional, non-traditional, et cetera?
Yeah. So I have one surprising story that I will share. So I was the head of marketing for a company called Block.io, and they were in the learn to code space. And we were small, we were scrappy, we hadn't raised too much money, team of maybe like 75 people, but we had a decent mailing list. So I wrote a blog post, and to put the post together, I ran a survey amongst our mailing list, and I said, how many of you have tried Code Academy, which at that time was closer to being the 10,000 pound gorilla in the space, in the learn to code space. I surveyed our database, said, how many of you have tried Code Academy? How many of you finished Code Academy? And sure enough, something like 87% of respondents said that they never finished Code Academy. And so I actually published a blog post and a Medium post. This is back when Medium was a big thing, with that headline. And of course, the point that I was making is when you're done burning out of Code Academy, come to Block and enroll in our program instead. So kind of throwing a banana at the 10,000 pound gorilla, and it worked. It actually was trending on Reddit for a couple days, and it got a decent amount of traffic on Medium. But the real thing that happened is it really got Block on Code Academy's radar, and later Code Academy ended up hiring 2 strategic people away from Block, one the head of curriculum, my friend Mike, and 2 me. So that's like a crazy example. I wouldn't necessarily always suggest attacking the 10,000-pound gorilla as a way to get noticed, but if done tactfully, it at least kind of shows your heart and gets you on the radar of the much larger organization. Though the one other thing, I forget who I was, what podcast I was listening to this morning, but it's something that I've said a lot, and I just want to repeat it, which is if you're not getting rejected all the time, you're not aiming high enough. So that's the second kind of suggestion that I would have for folks is always be reaching out. Oh, you know what? It was probably the Pivot podcast with Professor Scott Galloway. I love him. I think he said it, and that really resonated with me. So those are my two examples. Is I've applied for jobs that I had no right, and I networked in and made it to like the second round. Actually, that happened with Amazon. I was applying for a job that I had no right to get. And but because I had gotten 2 or 3 people to shoot a note to the hiring manager saying, hey, this guy is applying, you should really take a look at him. He pushed me on to like the final round for that job, and then said, listen, a lot of people spoke really highly of you, but you have no idea what you're doing for this job. So thank you, but no.
Wow, that's pretty interesting. That's definitely outside the box, actually. I love that. And same question for you, Soham. Ways you've gotten noticed, or coach people to get noticed for like their dream job.
Yes. So a lot of my experience has been on the software engineering side. What I've seen is that people glorify that job extremely, like a little too much, if you ask me. And many people sort of think that their next move should be to become a software engineer, and that's all there is to life. I think one thing I've seen actually work is that think of your career transition into software engineering, if you want to get noticed, in 2 steps instead of taking sort of one giant leap. Think of it in 2 steps. Get into a tech company first, like get into an ancillary role first, right? Like for example, test engineering often has sort of easier entry. Support engineering has easier entry, and there are several other roles in a software engineering org which have much easier entry. So and they do consider people with little to no experience in those roles. So try that first. The other angle is contracting also. The first step could just easily be contracting, and then you can take the leap into software engineering if you would like. So that's getting noticed in the first job. I think gets much easier if you don't sort of aspire to be like at the last step from the first in the first shot. That's what I've seen a lot, and that's what I'd say.
Got it. No, I love that. And Jess, from what you've seen in your career, like what are some ways that people have, got the attention of, tech companies, whether it's on Clubhouse or LinkedIn or whatever the case is?
I think in general, the best route is to try to get a referral especially if it's coming from the department that you want to work from. Or also in the role that you want to work for. If you know somebody that is in the company, try to schedule a coffee chat, and then try to sneak in within that conversation that you're interested in their organization, interested in X, Y, and Z role, and establish those relationships. But I think right now, especially with the job market being what it is, the best route is to try to develop relationships.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Relationships are absolutely key. This was probably touched on a little bit in some of the answers, but one of the ways that, I've seen people consistently get the attention of folks that they're trying to, basically get on their radar is LinkedIn comments, just consistently commenting on their posts, having that familiarity. Even commenting on their Instagram, etc., just letting them know like, hey, I'm around. Do that for a while. And then after a while, you say, you know what, now's my time to shoot my shot. Shoot them with the DM and give them a concise, clear message of, hey, I've been following your posts and, doing a lot of research on your company. I'm on the job market now. Think I would be a great fit. I align with a lot of the same values. here's the job role I'm looking for. Here is the resume. Would love to get your referral or at least some advice on how to break into that role. And just that familiarity over time and the appreciation for engaging with the content has had some people break the ice and get into the role a lot more smoothly. So I see Malik, who's a manager at Amazon. Please don't be shy. Would love your support to come on stage. Shivali, I see you, senior consultant at Deloitte. Would love for you to join the conversation as well. And anybody else that has any questions for Proceed, Soham, and Nick, feel free to raise your hands. I see 2 people, so I'm going to go ahead and bring you up. But let's keep on going with the breaking into tech surprising ways. So Nick, when it comes to the hiring committee of LinkedIn or companies that you've worked with, like, what are some key things that they think about when somebody is approaching them with cold emails, cold reach outs? What are some of the things that make candidates stand out versus the ones that they say, I'm gonna skip over their message or not respond?
Yeah, great question. So there's 2 things here. The first one is like we can talk a little bit about what they would want to see in a candidate, and then I also want to talk about the relationship aspect and how to kind of turn a cold message into a warmer message that can actually bear some fruit. So in terms of what we're looking for, right, we want to see people that have done their research a little bit and know why they provide value to the company. So when I was at LinkedIn, I would get, anywhere from 60 to 100 messages, every few days. And the majority of them, 90, 95% of them were just like, hey, I'm interested in LinkedIn. Do you have any positions for me? Right. And even if I looked at their LinkedIn profile, like very sparse, not a lot of information about what value they could provide to the company. And that doesn't stand out. Right. But instead, if it was something like, hey, I noticed this position, right? These are some of the things that I've accomplished, and not just saying, these are the responsibilities I've had, why I'd be fit for the role, but actually giving me evidence that would substantiate your claim that you can provide value in that role. That starts to stand out a little bit more, right? Because you've done my work for me, essentially. You've made it very clear that you'd be a good fit. All I have to do is make the intro. But the relationship aspect is really important too, because sometimes when you just come off and say, hey, I'm interested in this opportunity, and kind of going back to what Jess said, I thought you made a beautiful point there, right? If you just come in and say, hey, you should refer me, that could be a little bit intimidating if I don't know who you are. I don't know your value system. I don't know any of this, right? So instead, saying like, hey, I just love to chat, right? Can I buy you a cup of coffee? In a pre or post pandemic world, can we jump on a quick phone call? I just want to learn a little bit more about your perspective at the company. And then once you have that, right, you can ask them what makes somebody successful in this role. Because every individual in the hiring committee, or the recruiters, the hiring managers, are going to have a different definition of success, right? What they're looking for, what they feel would be the right candidate. And if you understand what their definition is, then you can pitch yourself based on that definition. And that becomes if you say, hey, you mentioned these kinds of traits are positive. These are some of the things I've done in my career. If those things align, then it's very easy to say, would you mind helping me get into the interview process? Would you mind referring me in or giving an introduction? And at that point, it's a no-brainer for them, right? So just to summarize that, right? Understand what your value add is and why you're a good match beyond responsibilities. And then start a relationship, start a conversation, rather than just asking for a referral cold. It'll give you much better odds at getting the interview.
Love that. And we have some new people that popped on stage. Would love to get your opinions as well. Shivali, when it comes to networking your way into Deloitte, were there anything that you did from a preparation standpoint that you feel made it a successful transition into Deloitte, or have you seen other people do some creative things to stand out amongst all the people trying to break into Deloitte, especially maybe on Clubhouse?
Yeah, thanks, Jared, for inviting me on stage. I was multitasking a little bit, but when I heard you call my name, I popped on here. For kind of differentiating yourself, like I think a lot of people get reached out to on LinkedIn. And most of the time, like, you know, it could be a random connection with no personalized message. So the person doesn't even know what you're reaching out to them for. So I think, you know, obviously personalizing the message, so there's a clear ask there. And then scheduling those coffee chats, making it clear this is the role that I want to talk to you a little bit more about, to kind of learn about, like, make it about them. Like, don't just go right into it and be like, oh, I want to get into this job, like, can you help me out here? Like, you want to make it more about them and act like you want to learn from them. And then from the conversation, like, even I've had coffee chats where, like, I'm just trying to learn more about the person and the role, and then at the end of the conversation, the person's like, oh, I can refer you if you want. Like, I didn't even have to ask. So I think that's some of the more better ways I've seen that people were able to get that interview and make that connection.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. And Soumya, representing Facebook, I know Facebook is like the dream job for so many people. If you were to give somebody advice of like, how do I break into Facebook or like stand out to get into Facebook, you know, what advice would you give to the audience?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Jarrett. So I would reiterate a couple of the things that folks like, I believe, Nick and Shivali have said, where I get a lot of ads on LinkedIn or messages where I don't mind getting messages. I don't mind supporting and responding, but especially when it's messages like, hey, are there any roles that are a fit for me? Or do you have anything in sales where, especially on Clubhouse, where maybe I've talked about the part of the business I'm in, it kind of feels like a copy paste message of, no, the answer is there's hundreds of roles available in sales, and it wasn't even what I talked about in Clubhouse. So of course I'm not going to know. And if that could have been a meaningful connection, you've kind of lost your shot now, because you only get one chance at a first impression. And if you don't want to waste on just a copy and pasted message that you're sending to a bunch of people. It's not worth the person's time who you're messaging, and it's also not worth your own time to just spam a bunch of folks with those kind of messages. So less is more, quality over quantity. Really try to find folks in the specific area that you're looking to get a foot in the door. And so that's kind of the other point I'll bring it to, where so if I look at even my time at Facebook, I was previously in consulting at PwC for a few years, came in as a program manager, and then have moved over to more of a strategy role. And for me, I focused on getting a foot in the door where, you know, like Jared had said, that I really wanted to work for Facebook and work in tech and have this experience. So I knew that it would have to be somewhat connected to the work I did at PwC, where I'd done some work in M&A, some in retail, consumer goods, supply chain, a little bit of a mix. And so when I was looking at program manager roles, I was like, okay, tech is going to be new for me. Technically, being a program manager is going to be new for me. New city living in. What can I keep the same that I can make the foundation of a foot in the door at Facebook? And that's where I started my conversations with networking, where I know this is during non-COVID times, but I had attended, I think, a happy hour at Facebook where I'd connected with folks specifically in the supply chain space. But that's still something you can do during quarantine times. Like I mentioned, if you're looking for specific people to connect with via Clubhouse or LinkedIn, make that the starting point of, hey, for me, that was, I see you're looking for a supply chain PM. I have this background in supply chain, and I think I can be a value add to your team for this reason. But also I love Facebook and I'm interested in Facebook for XYZ reasons. The second part, so this is the other thing I'll say, or kind of closing out, of having those foundational skills to a specific role is important. But the other thing that I would say is also very important at Facebook is our culture. It's something that has been so special and curated, and we see it as something different than maybe a lot of other big tech companies. And it's something that we love seeing people bring to, like Google uses the phrase, for example, like Googliness. I don't think we have an equivalent term at Facebook, but showing up, whether that means in your interviews and your networking interactions, of showing that you're excited about Facebook and excited about the culture we've built. I know I talked about things in my interviews or even in my networking, like the resource groups or kind of the internal clubs I wanted to be a part of. And so on one hand, it shows like, yes, you've done your research, but you've applied that research to your own experiences and your own passions and how you would show up at Facebook and be able to bring that. So those are kind of the couple of things that I always try to mention when I know that's a bit more specific to Facebook, but if you're trying to break into tech general, making sure that you're looking at the specifics and not just kind of generally trying to see what sticks to the wall. So this is Sami, and I'm done speaking. Thank you.
Samia dropping gems. Man, hopefully everybody was taking notes, especially from a Facebook perspective. And this is a big tech perspective. There's a lot of correlation between what you said to all the tech roles, whether it's big tech or even startups. So really appreciate that insight. So I want to pass it off to Supreet and Indira and David, who came on stage to ask questions. And then Christopher, thanks for jumping up. He's a recruiter, so he definitely has some insight in how to break in. But before I do that, I just want to reset the room. What you're in the room for right now is breaking into tech, surprising ways to get noticed. So these are strategies for you to really sharpen your pencil so that when you approach somebody that you're looking to get a referral or a hiring manager or recruiter, you can have some more creative ways, tips and tricks to strengthen your brand before approaching them so that you have a better chance of getting in this competitive market. So if you're enjoying this conversation, if you're getting value out of this, I really implore everybody to go to that greenhouse at the top, click it, Great Careers in Tech, and go ahead and follow this club. They host amazing rooms every Thursday, as well as throughout the week. And if you aren't following the club, then you won't be alerted to Soham, Prasid, Nick, and the rest of the squad that has been kind enough to come on stage to have these great discussions, tips and tricks about how to get into tech, how to interview, resumes, LinkedIn, all kinds of topics. So yeah, Supreet, thank you so much for coming on stage. What question do you have for the panel, or comment or value that you'd like to add? You have the floor.
Hey, Jared. Thank you. Appreciate you guys having me on here. Proceed. I actually was looking through your profile, noticed you were looking for a product marketing manager. That's something I'm very interested in. I actually got into tech in a kind of unconventional way. I got in through sales and I worked my way up into customer success. Currently, networked within my own organization with the VPs and directors for product marketing. So I'm being considered for roles. I just, when I look at a lot of the positions on LinkedIn, a lot of them say minimum 5 years experience. So what's a great way of getting contributing more or getting more experience to highlight or provide value?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, one of the things that you have the opportunity to do if you're already kind of in an organization that has product marketers, and that's the role you're interested in, is look for opportunities to collaborate with them. Look for opportunities. Google used to have the concept of 20% time, but there's a lot of companies that if you say, I want to, on top of my day job, do this project that helps another department, a lot of companies, a lot of managers would love to hear that. It shows that you're hungry, and they will at least reward that in terms of how much they respect you, and will probably give you extra consideration when a role opens up on the team that this person's already been trying to show up and do the work. The other way of attacking it is to do the work for someone else, right? So if you can show that outside of your day job, you as part of a clubhouse club, or on your blog, or starting a podcast, that you're doing that product marketing work in some other part of your life, that's another way of kind of validating for them that you have the ability to make this jump. And then the last thing is, my mental model is I'm always thinking in terms of Tarzan swinging from branch to branch. So in your case, you're trying to make one leap from role to role. It'll always be easier to make one leap than having to make two leaps. So it'll probably be easier to make the leap internally within one company than it will be to make a leap into that role at a separate company, because that's actually like two branches over, right? Because you're switching companies and switching roles. And then the final point would be to look for niches, right? So if you can identify a niche within the company or a niche within that specific department where you can add a ton of value, right? So if you're coming from a more customer-facing role, then perhaps your argument might be the sales enablement end of product marketing is the end that I'm going to be naturally very well suited at. For example, when I got my job at Microsoft, what they saw on my resume is that I had done a ton of work for like the student government all through high school and college, and they had a role that was going to be marketing to government and education. And I was up against a Harvard basketball player who's probably smarter than me and probably like just way more impressive in every way. But what really resonated with them was that I was already kind of doing that work of working with, at a smaller scale, governments and education.
Thank you. No, that was great. And thank you. Right. Like, I've already tried to get involved with some events that are coming up within the company. So it's really just trying to get some blog articles written up as well and reaching out to more product focused, like out of different products we have. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah. Feel free to DM me about the role at Coding Dojo.
I already did. Thank you.
Awesome.
All right. And thank you, Chanel from Apple, for popping up. I know you're probably just relaxing and just being nosy and popping in, but I appreciate you popping on stage. So thanks for that. But Indira, I want to make sure that you have a chance to ask your question, or if you have some value you want to contribute. So Indira, you have the floor.
Sure. Hey, Jarrett. Thanks for having me and inviting me on stage. So I do have a question, but before I get to that, just to build on the conversation that's been happening about ways to get noticed, if I can share one strategy that's really helped open doors for me and really helped me build lasting connections is focusing on building win-win connections, no matter who it is and no matter what it is that I need. So that's anything from if I've attended a networking event and I found someone who could be a potential mentor or a potential referral, really researching them or taking the time to kind of get to know them and where they are, and looking through my portfolio or my network and seeing, is there anything that I can do to add value to them? Because we all know everyone's time is valuable. So if there's something that we can offer as well, instead of just taking, that'll help build that win-win connection. And for me, it's helped open doors and create lasting and memorable connections in the industry. So that's a little tip that's been helpful. But I'd also like to ask a question to the floor. I actually was reached out to by a recruiter from Amazon, and I have a call with them tomorrow, and just wanted to kind of pick the brains of anybody that has experience with Amazon. What's something that's really helped you get noticed or stand out from the hundreds of calls that these recruiters have for these positions? This is Indira, and I'm done speaking.
Yeah.
Could you share a little?
Go ahead.
Could you share a little more about what the role is?
Sure. It's for an RPA, so robotic process automation position for a technical manager.
Awesome. Thanks. Jarrett, you were going to say something.
Yeah. Let's see. All right. Yeah, there you go. Preeti, I would love for you to come up just from an Amazon perspective. I know it might not be the specific role that you're in, but maybe you have some perspective on just Amazon in general. Did you hear that question, Preeti?
Yes, I did. Can you hear me okay? I don't have my earbuds in, so I'm not
sure.
You
perfectly. It's very clear.
Okay, great. Awesome. So Indira, I did not hear which role you applied for. So you're interviewing for, would you mind saying that again?
Sure, for a robotic process automation technical manager.
Okay, that's awesome. So I work on Alexa. I work on policy for Alexa. And I will tell you that I can't comment on any of the technical questions you'll get because our areas are very different. But Amazon really asks a lot of interview questions about their leadership principles. And your recruiter probably sent you a sheet with them or look them up. Just get to know them really well, because you will get behavioral questions. I don't know in your phone screen, but even throughout the on-site interview, if you make it to that point, you'll get questions about situational questions about, tell me about a time in which you had to apply this Amazon leadership principle. Some of them are, having a bias for action. So being, really quick, or, being able to disagree with someone on your team, but, committing to a certain way forward, but still having comfort, like airing disagreement, but being okay with an outcome. So I would definitely look up those leadership principles and think about situations where you've applied each one. Because I'm sure you have. I think many of us in our careers have applied a lot of those leadership principles. We just didn't know or give it a name like that. So that's my one major tip. I don't think knowing the leadership principles well will outweigh any technical side of things, but I think it's still a very important component of interviewing at Amazon, the leadership principles. Preeti done speaking.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Preeti, for hopping up and jumping in. And also, while you were asking that question, Indira, I pinged in somebody that may be able to answer your question really well. I mean, she's a senior technical recruiter at Amazon. And Indira, if you could just kind of summarize that question in like one and a half sentences. Carrie, would love to just get your perspective on this when it comes to Amazon. So Indira, if you could.
Sure, happy to. So the question is, what's some ways to stand out during the phone screening for Amazon position? The position is for robotic process automation technical manager. And I was reached out to on LinkedIn by a recruiter. So looking for ways to stand out. Thanks. This is Indira, and I'm done speaking.
Okay. So if a recruiter reach out to you, first and foremost, ask that recruiter for a prep call if they didn't give you one. If they try to send you to an automated scheduling tool, ask them for a prep call. Do not schedule until they speak to you, and ask them that you want to speak to them to get some more clarity on the role. Because through that conversation, you can find out a little bit more about the culture, the team, the managers, and just some more details around those Amazon leadership principles, and then specifically how it would apply to that role. And then from there, once you get that, I do have, if you go to the link in my bio, I have a video specifically for interviewing at Amazon, utilizing those leadership principles. So you can look at that. The other thing I would tell you, there's 14 leadership principles. So depending on whether or not this is an individual contributor role or a manager role, so ask them that. Just because it has manager in the title, it could still be an individual contributor. If it's a manager role where you're managing people, you want to understand all 14 leadership principles. If not, you don't need to worry about frugality or hire the best, but look at the other 12 and then think about scenarios to where you've done each one. It's not the matter of memorizing each leadership principle. It's a matter of speaking to it with an impactful story. Once you've created a story for each leadership principle, go through it using the STAR approach. So that's situation, S is for situation, T is for task, A is for action, R is for result. So you want to be able to tell that story using all of that. But most importantly, before you just dive into your story, make sure you give context. Understand that that person is not working with you. So you want to be able to give them a background on what it is you're about to speak on. Go through that STAR method. Do not forget the result, because many people, they go through all their actions and everything, they forget the result. And then if you feel like you could have missed something, it's okay to ask, did I answer your question, or do you need more clarity? The other thing I would suggest that you do, especially since most interviews are virtual, go ahead and take notes and have that in front of you during the interview. And it's okay to digest the question before you answer. So if they ask you a question and you don't know it right away, or you need time to write it down, say, hold on, can I write that down and think about it for a second? That is completely fine. And then you can answer the question. And then we do not provide feedback after interviews. Everyone always asks that. So at the end of the interview, no matter if you're interviewing for Amazon or anywhere else, you can always ask, is there any question that I left unanswered for you, or anything else that I can tell you about myself for the role? And then make sure you always follow up with some additional questions showing your interest in the role. And if you know you're interviewing with multiple people in the loop, ask that person, do you have any advice for the next person I'm interviewing with? My name is Carrie. I'm done speaking.
Woo! Man, drop the mic.
Carrie, that was amazing. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, so I'm sorry, you were saying something?
No, I'm just agreeing with you. It was wonderful, actually. Thanks, Carrie.
Yeah, this is Preeti speaking, Carrie. That was spot on. That's a lot of what my recruiter told me before I interviewed, and what I have in mind as well. I think one thing I wanted to add just about the not so much the hire and develop the best, but more about the frugality one. I'm an IC, I'm not a manager. And I was asked a question in my interview, I believe, along the lines of frugality, but it was more about, tell me about a time where you did something with limited resources, or you, so it was more along those lines, not really like a financial question. So I think I would still think about situations for most of them, in case you do get a question about hiring and develop the best. Because I also, when I did interview training, I remember I was like partnered with somebody and they said, oh, like I don't hire and develop the best because I'm not a manager. But then there was someone who was facilitating the event saying, well, no, like you do. And these are the ways that you like help development of people on your team, or you have supported people on your team and helped them grow. So I think Carrie, you can feel free to disagree with me too. But I've gotten questions about those things as an IC. And so I just wanted to flag that it's possible they will come up. This is Preeti done speaking.
Yeah, no, those would definitely come up, but I know some people get overwhelmed with the leadership principles. So depending on the role you're interviewing for, always definitely look at all 14 if you're a manager. But if you really want to focus, it's always going to be a focus on at least the 12. But those questions could pop up, which is why it's good to talk to the recruiter to get specifically what is it that the role entails, what will you be doing, and if they can give you some ideas around the leadership principles. This is Carrie, I'm done speaking.
Thanks for clarifying, Carrie.
Awesome. Indira, was that helpful?
That was absolutely helpful. Yes. Thank you, Preeti. Thank you, Carrie.
Awesome. Appreciate you, Carrie, for jumping in. And as long as you can stay, we'll love it. But, totally understand it's late at night for you. But thank you for jumping in when I pinged you. I appreciate it. I want to hop to Danica real quick because I know Facebook is the F and Fang, and it's a huge company that a lot of people in the audience probably are interested in breaking into. Danica is a tech recruiter at Facebook and Instagram. And the topic today is breaking into tech, surprising ways to get noticed. So you get overrun with messages and notes asking like, hey, I'm interested in this, that, and the other. What are some things that make people stand out in terms of getting noticed by you, or any kind of advice you have, Facebook specifically or in general?
Awesome. Thanks for having me. First of all, my name is Danica Berg. I am a tech recruiter at Facebook and Instagram, mostly supporting senior software engineers in Canada and the US as well. So happy to answer any questions about that. In terms of, things that stand out for me, I think, or ways to approach or the best ways that I can help or communicate, I think is just being really clear and upfront in terms of what you're interested in. So if you have certain ideas around products or teams that you're interested in, that is super helpful for me, and it takes the legwork out of it, definitely. So that's what I would recommend.
Awesome. I appreciate that. And we got some new people hopping in as well. So want to roundtable with Carrie. I want to go back to you because I don't know how much time you have, and you are the queen of getting people hired. So when it comes to, some tips and tricks, what are some creative things that people can do to get noticed by managers, recruiters, employees that can refer? Any sort of tips and tricks to, basically, stand out amongst the crowd?
One thing I would say when you're searching for new roles, don't just search by the title, search by your skills and apply for those roles. Because more than likely you'll align to them more. Make sure that whatever role you're applying to, you meet the basic qualifications. Don't just know that you meet them. Make sure that they are inside of your resume, because a lot of systems, they sift that information out, as well as recruiters. That's how they find you. And those are the things that attract them to read more. So if you have those basic qualifications, make sure they're in your resume. When you actually get on the phone with the recruiter, know a little bit about the company, have some questions prepared, be able to speak to your experience. If asked about your salary or anything about that, just know no recruiter is allowed to ask you your exact number of how much you've made. You can give them a range, never give them an exact number. Additionally, I would say network. That is really, really huge. Jared also does a lot of these CH Tech career rooms with recruiter spotlights. I highly suggest being present in those rooms. You can learn a lot, not just shooting your shot, but really learning a lot, understanding the processes, and then also making sure your brand is put together for that role you're trying to get. So when I say your brand, your LinkedIn will be the number one thing. Have that aligned to the position you're trying to get. Again, many times we want a role, but we forget to position ourselves and represent our brand as such. And that is what people see. So make sure that you're utilizing your banner space to show who you are, utilize your tagline space to show who you are. Look at some of these people on these stages that are successful and see how they're doing things and duplicate it. Look at titles of other people on LinkedIn and see what they're doing. And if you're really trying to get the hottest roles and find out who the recruiter is, type in hashtag hiring on LinkedIn and then hashtag whatever role you're looking for, or just hashtag hiring, and you can sort through the most recent posts and go directly to that person in the DMs correctly with your resume and that job and connect with people that way. This is Carrie. I'm done speaking.
Mic drop. Carrie, thank you so much. Really appreciate that insight. That's some great stuff right there. So just to reset the room for all the new people that have popped in, this is Breaking the Tech, Surprising Ways to Get Noticed. And this is hosted under the Great Careers in Tech Club. So if you're enjoying this conversation or you're just interested in getting a great career in tech, you absolutely want to click that greenhouse at the top. Make sure you're following this club so that every time they have a room and they're doing a topic such as this, and they got folks like Carrie from Amazon and Danica from Facebook and Shivali from Deloitte on stage, you'll be alerted and you'll be able to get this awesome insight. Also want to thank Soham and Nick and Proceed for constantly doing great rooms. And definitely want to click their bios and go ahead and give them a follow as well, because they're definitely dropping gems. So Christian, you were a photographer before you became a data scientist at PlayStation. So you had a non-conventional, entry into tech in the sense that you weren't necessarily coming in from another tech firm or you didn't study information technology. So what were some ways that you got noticed by Nike and PlayStation to get your way into tech? We'd love to hear your perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. So actually, I just finished a podcast with Ken, the Nearest Neighbors. He runs this really awesome data science podcast where he actually interviewed me the whole thing. So if you guys want to check that out, it's in my Instagram bio, my Linktree. You guys could listen to the whole thing. But for me, going from photography, a completely creative field, into very technical field, the one thing that set me apart was my projects. Nobody does projects, and when I came into my when I came into my interview, they were like, this is why we brought you in, because we want you to explain this project to us. Like, how did you do it? Like, what did you do? And I pretty much every single interview, the ones that I landed like job offers the day over the next day, those were the ones where they asked me about these projects, and I walked them through it, and they're like, great, you already know how to do the job. Let's just get you in here. So that's my biggest takeaway. I mean, otherwise I literally have a 90 minutes podcast where you guys can, go super deep into that whole story, but that was the biggest key takeaway for me. So thank you so much, Jared, for having me. Stephanie, Proceed, Soham, Nick. Yes, I could talk about tech all day, so I will reside my time.
Thanks, Christian. I appreciate that. And David, welcome to Clubhouse. I see that you're new to the platform, so thanks for popping up. We'd love to hear if you have a question or if you have some value you want to drop. And if you're speaking, you got to click that microphone icon to come off mute. David, you there? There you go.
Great. Thank you, Jared. Terrific insights. I have to thank Samia and Chevalier and particularly Carrie and Danica. As the background of in the corporate world, both tech and hiring, and more recently as a startup founder, hiring tech front end and back end developers, people. I'd like to share some insights and ask for feedback. I'd like to echo the thoughts about that important to do your homework. Of course, the purpose for that is not only the knowledge, having done the research, but it's a demonstration to the person you're trying to reach out to that's of sincere interest. You're not simply making a blind request, an uninformed request for the job. Would share is just that. Perhaps rather than just asking blindly for a job or cold calling for a job, or I'd suggest asking the person for advice. Give them some information on you. Give them a little information that might help them in their position. Perhaps feedback on what's going on recently in their role. But ask them for advice. Instead of asking them for a job, if you ask for advice, I often find that that's received far better than the other, and it leads to a conversation rather than a factual response. This is David, and I'm done speaking.
Awesome, David. This is Jared speaking. I appreciate your insight and thanks for hopping on the stage. Really do appreciate that. So, Nick, rather than me ask you a question of like, what this or that, just for the folks in the crowd, breaking the tech, surprising ways to get noticed, what are the things that we have not talked about that you would really want the audience to like take away in terms of how to get noticed when, trying to break into tech, or just things that'll make them successful overall?
Yeah. So there's two things that I'd like to bring up, and one is actually reverse engineering the recruiting process, and the second one is just kind of another piece about relationship building and networking. So in terms of reverse engineering, if anyone's not familiar with this, a little methodology to use here. Go Google Boolean search command strings, right? Or Boolean search commands. Essentially, it's a way to connect a bunch of keywords in sort of this string so that you can find people. And this is what recruiters use. And you can use these Boolean search strings to find people on LinkedIn that are already in the roles that you're looking for, or recruiters that are recruiting for the roles that you're looking for, or hiring managers, right? And this can be a really good way to start to build up a network of mentors, or find a way, find people that are looking for people like you, right? So I highly recommend that. The second thing here is that when you start to build your networks up, because breaking into tech, it's a lot like breaking into like the entertainment world. Like it's very, very competitive. So who can help significantly, but it doesn't all have to be professional all the time, right? Some of the strongest quote unquote networking partners that I've established in my career are just people who are now friends, right? They're people that, a few folks mentioned earlier, like if you can add value to someone. Well, sometimes really good mentors are further along in their career than you are, and you might not be able to provide value for them professionally, but I've been able to teach people how to swing a baseball bat, or dog sit for people, or send people articles about health or wellness or yoga, or new music, and just building relationships to last is huge, right? So you don't need to know every person in the world. You don't need to network with hundreds and hundreds of people. Just find the people that you get along with, that are on the same path as you, that you share some interests, and just build friendships. And I think that's a really underrated part of breaking into tech is, people crave human connection. And so be human, have fun with people.
Nick, love it, man. Love it. And it's really, just like you said, it's about being a human being at the end of the day. And, really looking to connect with people. And the best way to connect with people is to really think about, from their point of view, what are the things that motivate them, they care about, and how can you help them get more of that? So I really do love that. I want to throw some love to my friend Sabrina. She's a recruiter over at Amazon Music. And Carrie just dropped some bombs, and you always drop bombs as well. In terms of creative ways to get noticed in tech, So we've kind of talked about like the preparation aspect of things, but are there any kind of unconventional ways that people can get noticed in the tech, like joining sort of organizations or, doing things on LinkedIn, like certain posts, etc.? We'll love to just hear your thoughts on some like out of the box ways some people can get into tech. And then Bree Villa, hopefully I'm saying Yvonne, I'm sorry. I see you're flashing your mic too. We'll love for you to answer that question as well from a Microsoft perspective.
Yeah, hey, Jerry, thanks for inviting me to this room. That's a really great question. And I hear that question often. Some of the unconventional ways I would suggest is now that prior to COVID and now that we're opening it up, start looking for some of the community outreach or community activities that corporations are doing. I know Amazon Music is hosting something on June 3rd at the Gathering Spot. And then start, because people are getting out and getting more comfortable being around each other again, and just start networking and reintroducing yourself to the community and meeting new people. That's what I would suggest as an immediate option for people, in addition to the other traditional ways of LinkedIn and some of the other social medias. But like we're getting out now, start meeting people and introducing yourself and kind of finding out, who you are through communication and conversation and what opportunities are out there. And I'm Sabrina and I'm done speaking.
Love it. And Yvonne, I see you are the augmented mixed reality at Microsoft. That's really cool. What advice do you have for the audience in terms of standing out and breaking into tech?
Yeah, I'm a program manager, but I've been at VMware and been heavily recruited by Amazon and Facebook. And I didn't reach out to them. I'll tell you what happened is that I established my brand. And this goes back to what Carrie was talking about and Sabrina, is that you establish your brand, and I established on LinkedIn. I set myself apart because I'm not a techie. But what I am is good at what I do, which is the area of compliance and regulatory and open source and some of that space. And so what happened for several years is that I played in that space, tried to set myself up, even if because I had a non-traditional background in the beginning. I worked in nonprofits. But again, my nonprofits was regulatory. I set myself as a global nonprofit leader, and then I parlayed that into a career in tech, at which I started as a contractor. A great way to start for many people. If you don't have a direct contact or a direct hire, I entered through doing a contract deal at a big tech company here in Silicon Valley. I live here. And then after that, I continued to find opportunities at startups. So I took the opportunity, but again, every time I left, I set up my brand. Who am I? I am the best in this area if you want me. So what happened over the time is I would get pinged via LinkedIn. That's why it's important to make sure whatever social media presence you have, that is your brand. Because then they reach out to you and say, hi, I have this opening. I didn't have to necessarily look. So with this last job that I had, my company got acquired. We had an IPO and then it got acquired. And then as I was in the between stage of looking for my next tech startup, actually, Microsoft came to me and said, we like your background. I need you. I'm like, okay. Because about 4 years ago, Microsoft rejected me, right? They're like, oh, no, we don't want you. And I was defeated. But then I was at this place because of the brand that I was able to establish as a person in my field. Again, a non-tacky brand, but established myself, that I ended up having the opportunity to be a project manager on the augmented reality program that is considered HoloLens for those who know, and it's been in the news recently. But that is what set me aside, again, that brand, and I want to really hone in on that. And I think what years ago when Amazon came after me at some time, because again, they pinged me twice, is because of the brand. They had a need, and my resume and who I am, as I set myself, I would comment on things in LinkedIn. I will try to make sure that the subject was relevant to my career, who I am. It wasn't just having a little subtitle on your name and what you did. I commented, I provided content to the point that set myself aside.
Wow, love it, love it, love it. Great, great, great advice, Yvonne. And I hope everybody really took notes on that. And what also I love about Yvonne's approach is that the intentionality behind everything she's doing. And she's thoughtful, and you can tell the passion too. And that passion is transferable to people. And that's why she's so heavily recruited by all these companies, and she's able to turn things down versus, constantly having to reach out. So I want to just ping it around to a couple more people. Megan, thank you so much for coming up. I'm not sure how much time you have, but as a tech recruiter at Facebook and Instagram, Danica shared some thoughts about, creative ways to get noticed. But I know one of the burning questions for the folks on the stage who shoot their shot at recruiters and, barely get a response back is, besides them, having the job rec, and the resume and, a brief description, is there anything else that you see on somebody's LinkedIn profile or like their activities or just anything about their brand that makes you say, okay, this is somebody I need to prioritize in my follow-ups with the hundreds of messages that I get?
Hey, Jarrett, it's been a minute. Thanks for bringing me up to stage. Yeah, I think that something that definitely sets candidates apart is their intrinsic motivators. So their knowledge of the product, their investment in the product, their vision for it, and just being really a part of the community to contribute to what the broader business objectives are. And sort of like make a difference in the world or in tech or whatever their passion might be. So any research, information, suggestions that they can provide and showcase that to the recruiter really does make a difference. I had a candidate from Russia actually who reached out to me in one of my previous positions prior to Facebook. And he went through the app and he had some like concrete suggestions on tangible ways to improve the performance of the app for the consumer. And that went all the way up to the CEO. And he ended up getting FaceTime with the CEO and going through the interview process and landing the position. That really set him apart as an outlier from the other candidates who were just following like the due process of applying. So that's my one tidbit of advice. That's Megan, and I'm done speaking.
Awesome, awesome. And one way to stand out, in my opinion, is to make sure you follow all the moderators and speakers on the stage. Really tap into their bios and check them out. You got Megan and Danica from Facebook. You got Carrie and Sabrina, recruiters at Amazon. You also have some Samya from Facebook as well. We got Preeti from Amazon. We got Shivali from Deloitte. You want to make sure we got Yvonne from Microsoft. List goes on. Queen, thank you so much for coming up from Deloitte. Definitely want to get your insight. Yanu is an ML and AI expert. And then we got Soham and Nick from Interview Kickstart. So you want to make sure that you're following all these moderators, following the speakers, and most importantly, click that greenhouse at the top. Follow Great Careers in Tech so that you're aware of these rooms. And when we have like this amazing panel of people that are popping on stage, giving their time, you're alerted and you're going to be able to get all these gems. So Soham, I want to kind of kick it to you. So you're the founder of Interview Kickstart. You have rigorous FANG, technical interview coaching, deep curriculum, $500 million in offers and counting. So when it comes to those $500 million in offers, what is it that really, from a mindset perspective, from an approach perspective, you would, share with the people that go through your program, as well as anybody in the audience, some tips and tricks that, maybe haven't been shared yet, that you think like, I really hope that they at least take this away?
Yeah, of course. Let's see. So we come at it from the interview side. and especially software engineering. One interesting parallel to what has been talked about in software engineering to get noticed is to contribute to open source software. Every company worth its salt has some open source software, and you could just read and in your time just contribute to that. It could be simple bug fixes, documentation, things like that, and get attention as well. So just one side note. Otherwise, it is very important to understand the interview process. Right? Many people underestimate or overestimate the interview process, but realize that the interview process exists so that they can know you well, they can know you better. They throw 3 to 5 to 7 people in the entire process to get to know you better. There is no way to game the process. Many people who are trying to enter into tech or even software engineering anywhere, they feel like it's such a bunch of tricks that they can do and get in. That's not possible with interviews. That might be possible with standardized tests, but that is not possible with interviews. So when you are preparing for interviews, one thing to keep in mind is be genuine, be authentic, be clear about what you want and where you're coming from. Try to draw that parallel, like so many other speakers have given suggestions for. That is the only thing that will lend you this thing. There's really no way to get past interviews otherwise. Somebody's if you're trying to game this, somebody's going to see it. So don't waste your time in that. And the last thing I would say is that practice. Practice your answers if you're on the behavioral side. Practice your technical chops if you're on the technical side. But do practice. Interview is an artificially stressful environment. Many interviewers don't know exactly how to interview, and they might be on your panel. So do practice for interviews. That's the last one. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that advice, man. That's really appreciated. And Suyash, I see you came onto the stage and you might have a question. And actually, before I go to Suyash, Naveen, you've been waiting and you might have a question. So what question do you have for the panel? We have so many great companies and a lot of experience. So shoot away.
Thank you, Jared, for bringing me on the stage. I have a small question. So after the interview, the interviewers actually discuss about the solution and also about the candidate's performance. I wanted to understand if they also discuss about the leadership response that the candidate gave individually to each one of them. Do the interviewers discuss that as well when making that decision? Maybe anyone from Amazon can highlight on this part. Thank you.
Yeah, so actually, Nick, you've interviewed several people and you help people get through. You've been part of the hiring committee for over 200 engineering hires. I would love to hear your perspective on this, and then we can shoot it to somebody at Amazon.
Yeah, I'm actually going to ask if you can clarify the question a little bit. Were you asking how do we get feedback on the performance itself? I'm not sure I gathered the question.
I mean, let's say if someone asked a question on one of the leadership principles and I gave a response, and after that all the interviews are going to ask about the leadership principles. After I have responded to all of them, do they go back and discuss what response I gave to make the decision if it should be higher or no higher?
So it's very Amazon specific, but yeah. Nick, you can go ahead and go for it.
Gotcha. Yeah. So yeah, to Jared's point, I can't speak for Amazon's hiring committees specifically, but what I can say is this. In my experience in hiring committees, what will happen is every panel that you have in the interview process, that interviewer will submit some feedback, right? And what will happen is when we get into the hiring committee, we're going to look at all of the feedback from everybody that you spoke with during the interview process, right? Now, that feedback may not be so detailed to say, well, this was his response to this question and this was his response to this question. It may be instead that, we want this candidate to hit these 3 behavioral traits, right? We think that they need to embody these principles in order to be effective on the job. And there might be just some general feedback on, yes, I think, in the case of Amazon, I think that, he shows a bias towards action. He thinks big. He can have a backbone, disagree, and commit, right? and they might give some examples from your responses, but they won't necessarily critique each individual response. Does that make sense? And so when we're looking at you as a candidate, we're looking at you holistically, behaviorally, system design, coding and algorithms, whatever your role is, we're looking at all elements and saying, how does your performance stack up against the competition? Does that make sense? And
yes.
Feel free, anybody at Amazon, if they'd like to clarify deeper on the hiring committees there specifically.
Yeah, Sabrina, we'd love to get your thoughts on this. Anything else you want to add to that?
Yeah, no, I think that was spot on. That's pretty perfect, pretty spot on.
That makes sense. Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Sabrina.
You're welcome.
Yeah, great question.
Awesome. And let's go to one more question. So Yash, thanks for coming on stage. What question do you have for the panelists? And thank you, Tiara, for popping up, and Keish for popping up. Appreciate that, and Latif as well. Definitely want to get your insight. But so Yash, what question do you have for everybody?
Actually, question for Soham. I've been a senior data engineer at now CVS Healthcare for quite some time. I have been tomorrow will be actually the first time I'm actively involved in college recruiting by taking tech interviews now. What advice do you have for me as an interview panelist, being one of the 5 software engineers taking coding interviews? What do you look for, rather than, I know what I am looking for, but out of ordinary, what do you think I should be watching out for at that point?
So interviewing college kids as a data engineer or as a software engineer?
Well, basically it's for both. Yeah, basically I'm just taking data structures. Yeah.
So you are asking data structures questions to college kids.
Correct.
I see. And what should you be looking for?
Yes. Anything you advise out of ordinary. I have been given some details from the people who have been doing this for a while, but at the same time, I just wanted a second feedback from you. Yeah.
No, nothing out of the ordinary. I think as an interviewer, Sash, we don't do extraordinary things. I think we just do ordinary things consistently. That's really the key at the end of the day. So just and what is the ordinary thing that we should be doing consistently as interviewers is to be calibrated on the questions we ask. Right? Just don't pull anything out of the hat, right? Especially because it's a technical thing. The questions that you ask, you should know the answers to those very well. You should have given them before. You should have gone through the training process for those questions, and you should know what the top quartile looks like, or what a top quartile performance in that question looks like. As long as you're calibrated on that, I think then then the rest of it is just fine. Now, sometimes some candidates will not perform well on this. Give them a second chance. Give them some sort of a second chance. There are catching signal from human beings is a very complex problem, and we are trying, as engineers, we are trying to simplify it down to a data structure question or two, which in some sense can be unfair. So if you are not catching signal, right, just give them another chance, with a different question, with a different time, or trying to look for something else on their resume that stands out. Right, some people just may not have the mind for data structures algorithms and such, but they are super driven. Right, and so look for other signals on their resume that says that this person is actually driven, especially in college kids. Many college kids get into college with little to no understanding of what college is and what jobs look like after that. They also don't come from families who even owned a computer before. So give them some of that slack and look for, besides the data structures algorithms, look for signals that tell you that this person is very driven. I mean, those are really just two things that I typically advise when I happen to advise a lot of directors, VPs of engineering across the valley on these things, but these are sort of the top two things that stand out. I hope that helps.
Awesome. Yeah, no, thank you so much. I was actually making some notes on that. Yeah, and that's some really helpful advice apart from the regular straight up questions which we normally ask. Yeah, but yeah, no, that is definitely really helpful. Thanks again.
Of course.
Awesome insight. Thanks for that question. That was really helpful. I think that answer added a lot of value to the folks in the audience. So appreciate you coming up, Suyash. So I want to pepper it around to some people that I haven't gotten a chance to talk to. So Christopher, you are, a very well-renowned recruiter. And when it comes to the opposite, instead of people reaching out to you, you reaching out to people because you have a client that's looking to fill somebody for a role. What are some of the things that get you really excited, whether it's their LinkedIn profile or whatever searching that you do, and maybe give the audience some insight into like, a headhunter or a recruiter, how they actually search and find the right candidate and what makes them stand out.
Yeah, happy to do that. Hi, everyone. This is Christopher from Boston. So I work for a small firm. There's only 5 of us in Boston called Hub Technology Group. So technically I'm on the business development side, but by nature of how small we are, we have to recruit. So kudos to Jarrett for running these rooms. He did 2 of these back to back. So if you haven't followed Jarrett already, follow him, follow this club, because there's so much value, and social audio is definitely a great way to network for a job because it's voice, it's automatic, and there's been so much great information that's already been shared. So, my comments are coming more from the business development side. I mean, when I need to reach out to a company, I need to differentiate myself from, literally there's thousands of recruiters in Boston. So, as I'm reaching out, it's, I'm finding a piece of information that's public, but, probably something that not someone would lead with, right? So back in the days when you could actually like see people face to face, if I needed to meet with a decision maker who was training for the marathon, and they were running at 4 a.m, I'd go run in at 4 a.m. It's whatever you need to do to get the business. So as you're here, I would say, be active when you're on Clubhouse, take notes. This is the second time I've been in this room, and I am not connected to Fang in any way, but I feel like I'm learning enough that I could actually apply for a role, because I think it's definitely about who you know. And to that point, I have literally tried to read everybody's bio in here. So make sure that you're following folks, not just on the stage, but the folks to the right of you, the folks to the left of you. You just never know who you're going to bump into in other rooms and what value you'll be able to get. But getting back to Jarrett's question, in terms of thinking about, what is going to make you stand out to a recruiter, I know that, when I work with, a company, if they're willing to pay a fee, it's basically because, they're overworked, or, they have a position that just can't wait. And they haven't been able to find the quality of talent that they're looking for. So, what you really need to do is, have a profile that speaks to, your core skills. And that's what's going to give you that visibility. And, relate that to jobs. I think if you've been in one of Jarrett's rooms, he will tell you, you're going to be in a room like this and you're trying to get in front of some Fang folks, do your research, and it's tough. Like these companies that have, these huge, very large websites, I guess if that's the proper verbiage to use, like you've got to spend some time to actually look through those roles. But, you are going to differentiate yourself so much by, researching that role, making sure that, your resume really reflects those core skills that they're asking for, and then having someone that can follow up and basically saying, hey, I submitted my resume. It's been, 72 hours. It's been a week. It's been 2 weeks, whatever it is. But just having someone that you can say, look, I saw you in this Clubhouse room. Here's the rec number. What can you do for me? Can you give me a referral? Can you give me a reference? So it's just all about persistence. So if you're in this room and, you're not kind of actively looking at people's, profiles, you're doing yourself a disservice, because I think the one thing I learned on this app is to be patient. I came into this room, I went to the gym, did my workout, and I came back, and I'm able to kind of connect, right? So this app is made for multitasking, but when I was at the gym, I literally read almost everyone's profile. So, this is how you grow on this app. So give someone a follow. If you see someone 0 follows, give them a follow, and update your profile. I literally update my profile for every room I'm in. If you look at my profile for this room, it literally says, if you want to follow from me, put C2M in your profile. And if I miss you here, I live on LinkedIn. That's where I do most of my business. So if you connect with me there, I'm more than happy to follow you there as well. So Jarrett, happy to stop talking. Sorry if I babbled on a little bit, but if that didn't answer the question, happy to redirect if needed. This is Chris from Boston. I'm done speaking.
Hey, this is Jared speaking. Yeah, I didn't really realize you're on the business development side. So that was actually news to me, but it's still a good perspective because you know what it's like to prospect into accounts where there's a lot of people trying to vie for their attention. And so that perspective, I think, is helpful for all the job seekers. And, look at hiring managers or the company you're trying to, basically break into as an account, and you got to be research prepped and understand what are they looking for and how you can differentiate yourself. So that's key. And then also just utilizing an app like Clubhouse. If you're in this room and you're not looking at this as a way to break into tech and a surprising way to get noticed, then you're really missing the mark, because your bio, your consistency of showing up in people's rooms and them noticing your face and them starting to realize, oh, there goes, let's just pick somebody in the crowd. Oh, there goes Descartes again. Like literally, I've seen Descartes, UC Davis CS student in my rooms multiple times. So if he DMs me, it's like, oh, this is my brother Descartes. What's up, man? I've never talked to him before, but I've seen his face so often. I've seen him in my recruiter room so often that it's like, I know him. So like what I'm saying is check out the profiles of everybody on the stage. Megan from Facebook, Sabrina from Amazon, Yvonne from Microsoft, and you want to make sure you're following all these people. And then also another great way to get familiar with people is following clubs. So like Great Careers in Tech. So what I would do if I was in your situation trying to break into a tech company is, number one, I would follow this club because we have all this great content and we have all these great people in this room and they do it consistently. So if I'm trying to get a great career in tech, I'd follow a club called Great Careers in Tech. But then I would also look at the member list, go down that list, read all of the bios, follow a couple of people. And, with this group of people, they're mostly, there's a lot of people from Interview Kickstart. And so Interview Kickstart is one, going to prepare you for the skills you need to interview, as well as prepare your brand to get into roles. But more importantly, what it's going to do is it's like going to a university. You're going to be collaborating with a bunch of people that have the same goals as you. So as they spread out throughout the tech field, it's like having that, graduation class where you can say, oh, you got that job at Microsoft, can you give me a referral in the future, et cetera. So also look at that, read every profile, and think outside the box in terms of how you can build community. So Latif, I want to go ahead and throw it to you. Thanks for coming on stage. You have you're in tech, but you're in a more like, I guess, less traditional form of tech where it's not FANG or anything like that. But you're the chief marketing strategist for Dextopia. You're looking to hire a full-time solution architect. So like for your full-time solution architects, right? You were, scouring profiles and you have people reaching out to you. What advice do you have for the audience in terms of what are some of the things that you look for when, potentially bringing on a solution architect or just bringing people on to Dextopia, as you're trying to grow towards all of your, big goals as a company?
All right. So honestly, when it comes to new talent, the first thing that we're the most concerned about is loyalty, honestly, because the code, and I'm not a coder, by the way, but the co-founder of my company, he is the CTO, and he was the main coder behind the technology that we built. And our thing is that it's a lot of proprietary information in there. We built the code from scratch, so we got patents pending on that stuff. So it's like whenever we're working out the kinks, I mean, because the foundational everything is done, it's already released, is ready for download and everything like that. So at this point, we're constantly pivoting the direction of what we want to do with the technology. So whenever we bring somebody on, it has to be a sense of loyalty there first, someone that's going to actually kind of ride that wave with us and be there with us for a while. So when we're hiring somebody, it's not like a short-term thing. It's somebody that's actually going to become part of the family because we're a real small startup. So I think that's the best advice that I could give to some of the engineers out there is whenever you come across in front of these companies, especially smaller startups, you got to reassure them that that you're going to be loyal to the company and that you're there for the long run. And I think that people who actually show that kind of dedication is going to stand out more than the person that just kind of wants a job at the moment. So that's something that we worry about, especially with our proprietary information and all the coding that we've built out from scratch. So we kind of it's like our baby. So some of the people want to keep that in mind as well.
Yeah, this is Jared speaking. I love that perspective because everybody that thinks about tech always thinks about the big companies, the FANGs, and the IBMs, etc. But startups, I personally spent a decade in startups, and I love startup culture. I love smaller teams that are like striving to get towards that big goal. There's so much upside, equity, etc. But the thing I realized in my interviews, looking back, is it's really about a passion to say, like, I want to be employee number 50, and however long it takes to be a 500, 1,000 person company, to say I had a real part in building that. And a big part of, being on that journey is to have that loyalty, that excitement, that passion, that understanding of what the founder, struggled to get to this point where you're the 50th employee, and how special it is that they're bringing you on, and how everybody can have their imprint on the company. So like speaking from that sort of passion and that loyalty, and everybody's in it together, like I personally love that. And I love working for IBM as well. Like they both have their both sides. So thank you so much for that. I love that perspective. So I'm going to actually.
Could I add something about that? Because I worked in the tech startup, and that is exactly what it is. I was employee number, I think, 100 at one of the companies, and then we prepped for the IPO, and nothing can beat the feeling of, oh my gosh, we're actually going to do an IPO. But not all of them do. That's the very, very few of the tech startups do that. And then just to have the fortunate opportunity of moving to another tech company where I came in again, I think I was maybe 500, but we were so small still compared to what we were doing Kubernetes and containers and things like that, that when we built out the infrastructure to also experience the life cycle of a tech startup, it was amazing. But it requires, yes, a lot of dedication. I didn't have days off for 7 years. And I'm not kidding. From one tech startup to the other, I really didn't have a vacation, but I didn't miss it. It was the excitement and the thrill of creating something.
Thank you for adding that. I appreciate that. Yeah, you definitely have to look at all aspects of tech and just figure out like what is it that really motivates you and really gets you up and gets you going. And when you tap into that, that's how you can really start standing out and breaking into tech in a much more organic, authentic way, because there's a transfer to conviction and beyond. I just want to get into tech and I want to get a salary. So I want everybody to pull out their pen and pad if they haven't already, because you're about to get a masterclass. Not to put you on the spot, Tiara, or add any pressure, but
Yes.
when it comes to LinkedIn, Tiara showed me some things I never even knew of, like features, functions, etc. So there's really no time limit. But the question I pose to you, Tiara, is somebody that's trying to stand out and using LinkedIn features, using LinkedIn search options, keywords, whatever the case is, whatever you think is like some of the top things they can do. What are some things they can do on LinkedIn to make them, show up on more searches, to, help them be more effective when applying? Just give us the best stuff you got.
Yeah, Jared, I love this question. And I have about 10 examples, but I'll keep it short and sweet for all of the audience members. So hi, everyone. My name is Tiara.
And I work at LinkedIn, so I've learned so many ways of honestly really just like really for you guys to just stand out. And really, like what's the importance is just really of like how to leverage your brand. So the first thing that I would really want to point out is like the ultimate goal of your LinkedIn profile and your resume really is like to make sure that like these decision makers, so like the recruiters, the hiring managers, for them to honestly spend more time looking at your profile. Recruiters they only take 6 seconds. So it's not a lot of like a lot of time. So you guys want to make sure that you stand out. So ways that you can stand out, honestly, are you to really utilize your feature section. So like honestly, so like showcase your highlights, any like all of your accomplishments. And I would even like recommend for everyone to create a one-pager of everything and find ways for you to quantify your impact. Like on your feature section, another way for you to build up your credibility is for you guys to collect recommendations on LinkedIn. Because guess what? Anyone can endorse you for a skill, but not everyone can give you a recommendation. So start collecting them from like your past, like managers, colleagues, co-workers. It doesn't even matter. But really, like that's really going to help you guys to stand out. And another way that I will say too is to start utilizing all the filters that LinkedIn has. So Jerry just mentioned, so like for instance, right? I have 4,000 first-degree connections on LinkedIn, but I have over 3 million second-degree connections. And so what that is, well, like remember like when you guys hear that saying like your network is your net worth, that's what that represents. And so I recommend like everyone to start utilizing that, like the people filter on LinkedIn. And when you utilize your second-degree connection, there's a keyword filter as well. I highly recommend you guys to enter like either like tech recruiters, human resources, and start to see like what mutual connections you have, because your mutual connection might be able to give you an introduction. So that's like something that's so important. And then I would also say in general, your LinkedIn honestly has the capability of having 100 to 200 keywords. So like start utilizing your introduction, like your tagline, about section, experience, volunteering. These are all ways for you guys to honestly optimize the space. And then I will also say like another hack that you can also use too is like when you're applying for jobs. So like a lot of times, right, when people utilize like the job boards like Glassdoor, Dice, Monster, like whatever, they only use I guess like the job title and like where it's located at. On LinkedIn and also too, like Indeed has this too, Dice has this as well. You guys are able to filter candidates like basically has like less than 10. And also too, you can also add in filters where it has like recently posted. That's like, I want you guys to think about being really strategic on this platform. Like every second 2 profiles are created on LinkedIn. I know I'm saying a lot of information. I just don't want to forget anything, Jared, but
No, keep going.
yeah,
This is
like
awesome.
when I say I could go on. And also too, like you guys could literally start leaning on like your alumni, but guess what? Lean on like those other big networks too. Like Penn State has 20 campuses, like 20 universities, literally. Ohio State, NYU. If I were you, I would literally, especially for like tech. So we know like those big tech areas are New York, Seattle, San Francisco, Chicago, Boston. Atlanta is also a growing location. Houston, Austin, Dallas, all of these. And so when you guys like have your open to work, it's so important if you really are interested in getting into tech, start highlighting those like top tech locations. Make sure you guys have those top skills. You can put up to 50 skills alone on LinkedIn. And guess what? That's it. So remember how I mentioned I have at minimum like 100 keywords. 50 of it right there is like off of your skills section alone. And I would also say to help give you some engagement, you guys got to start posting more too. Like, listen, LinkedIn is literally turning into a platform where I'm calling it's like literally like it reminds me of like the professional Facebook, professional Instagram, professional TikTok, professional YouTube. So you want to make sure that you can literally use it to your advantage. I'm trying to think what also, and then I'm trying to think, Jared, what else is there? I'm trying to think of offhand. Oh, and then also, so like when you guys are thinking about tech, start leveraging these staffing firms. There are so many staffing firms. There are over 37,000 staffing firms in the United States alone. So start leaning on them because they made, and I can only speak on that because I work with over 100 staffing firms at LinkedIn. They literally have like the same contracts, like some of them have Fame, some of them have Coca-Cola, Pepsi, a lot of these major companies, Johnson & Johnson, that they literally source for. So start leaning on them to kind of help make it a lot easier. But I think that's really it, Jared. Like, again, like you guys, there's so many ways for you guys to stand out on LinkedIn. Oh, and one more tip. Start leveraging posts too. So if you type in hiring and put in like the job title that you're interested in, and if you start filtering it for like literally like less than 24 hours, less than 1 week, you will literally get to see all of LinkedIn's posts that you, so like the reason why this is so important is that if you're not connected to them on LinkedIn, you'll still be able to see it. It's just like specifically like that's recent. Like I know Christian was able to land his Nike role doing that strategy too. So these are definitely my top, I guess, 5 tips, Jared. Thank you so much for allowing me to speak.
All right, was I lying? I definitely
I know that was
was.
a lot, and and I talk so quickly. I know I'm from Philly, y'all, so bear with me. I'm an East
I
Coast girl.
appreciate you. You're trying not to take up too much time. I appreciate
Yes.
that, but at the same time, yeah, those are some gems. And the thing that I loved what she said is there's that tick box that when you're applying for jobs, there's a box that you can do like less than 10 applicants and also less than 1 month. And, you know, there can be just a lot of application fatigue and it just weighs on you when you're constantly not getting responses. But that could also be because you're applying to jobs that have, you know, 200 applicants every time. So, you know, kind of mix it up and just give yourself a better chance of maybe getting a response by finding a job where you kill it on the minimum requirements and then there's less than 10 applicants and it's been less than a month it's been out. You may have a really good shot at getting it. So just want to throw that out there as one of the things she said really fast, but definitely key in on. And also look at all the new features that come out, you know, LinkedIn stories, the creator program, et cetera, and really utilize that. Let's see, somebody is off mute.
I just wanted to give praise to Tiara for like what she is sharing. She like everything she says, like take notes, people. These are nuggets that will definitely help you out. And these are the tips and tricks that you don't see as like a candidate or a hiring manager or whatever the case may be. Like these are all the things that you need to know behind the scenes to leverage for your success. So thanks, Tiara. I'm glad to hear from you again.
Oh yeah, no problem. And that's what it's about too, Megan. Honestly, like we're literally like creating a platform for people to really just have a chance. So I love doing this, honestly. So yes, thank you so much.
And Nick, I see your mic's off. Did you have something you want to say?
Oh no, I was just gonna say that was awesome. There's one other thing that you reminded me as well, Jared. If you have a premium account, and I don't think you need a premium account to get value out of LinkedIn. I think it's an incredibly valuable platform for everything that Tiara shared with us, and much more. But if you have a premium account, in the jobs tab, it'll actually show you positions that you're a top applicant for, that you're, you know, the top 10%, top 25% qualified profiles based on the applicants for those positions. So that's another way that you can find that kind of low-hanging fruit of you know, teams that are looking for you. But yeah, no, Tiara, that was awesome.
Yeah, no problem, no problem.
Yeah, so definitely make sure you follow Tiara and follow everybody on this stage, dropping gems. This is actually one of the best rooms I've been on Clubhouse in terms of just like the quality of information from everybody on the stage. So shout out to everybody that just came in and popped up. Yeah, and definitely click that greenhouse, follow the club. But Chris, thanks so much for popping in. You know, product design at Google, you've been at Netflix, you've been at startups, you've consulted for the previous 10 years. So, you know, the goal of this room is just to help the audience just understand, like, what are some surprising ways to get noticed and to break into tech. So, you know, from your experiences, maybe as somebody that, you know, broke in and used some creative ways, or, you know, saw people break in by having certain things in their profile or their approach. Anything that you can just share with the audience in terms of tips and tricks breaking into tech?
Yeah. So, hi everyone. Hi Jared. So I'll stay away from the obvious stuff because, right, this is about surprising ways. So not credentials, not career, career journey or core skills, but I think storytelling and communication skills go a long way in standing out. First of all, I've interviewed lots of designers. So my background is design, but I also know a lot about the product management function. I've interviewed lots of designers who, you know, on paper were, you know, fairly good and they didn't necessarily stand out from anyone else, but talking to them, I could see that they could build rapport, or they were great communicators, they were storytellers. they just connected with me, and those people stand out, and I remember them. And the cool thing about that is you don't have to go to school to learn that. Like, a lot of that just comes to like practicing what you're going to say, practicing with a friend and getting feedback about how, you know, you sound in an interview. Like, anyone could do that, right? And that storytelling and communication also carries through to the way your resume is formatted and the way you're, like, for design, we always have portfolios on a website. So not just saying the facts and figures, or, you know, just showing the design artifacts, but telling the story of how you made your decisions, how you solved problems, what unique things you did that were very intentional, that made a big difference. Like, there's nuggets in the stories that are not obvious that I think stand out. So I would say that. And like, when I tried to get into Google, most of what I did was storytelling and communication. And it took me 4 months to get ready for that. And what I mean is that the first job I interviewed at in that 4-month period, I bombed. 4 months later, I was like getting job offers from like so many different places. I didn't go back to school. I didn't gain any new skills during that 4 months. All I did different was learn how to sell myself. I would say that that's the biggest way you could stand out, besides the obvious things.
Chris, nuggets. Appreciate that. And Queen, you know, you're at Deloitte right now, one of the top consulting firms in the world. You know, all that good stuff. So I saw you clapping. We'd love to get your thoughts on this topic. Anything you'd like to add to the audience?
Yes, this is Queen, and I so agree, Chris, because my degree is actually in psychology. That's my bachelor's, and my master's is in human services. I have no technical skills, but I'm in tech as an agile coach, and it was storytelling that got me there. Basically, I had to present myself and have a narrative for the company to understand that they needed me. And I connected with everybody that I interviewed with. And one of the things that I did at one of my interviews was, hey, my resume says what I've done, but I want you to know who I am. And I narrated my story. And I remember the panel saying, wow, why do we even need the resume? I got a job offer there, but I didn't take it. But it was literally storytelling, because people want to also work with someone that they connect with. My job at Deloitte, I know one of the things that actually got me hired, it was one of the managers asked me, if you were not an agile coach, what would you be doing? And I said, I will be doing film, documentaries. And I told him what documentaries I wanted to do, and come to find out it was about midwives. And his wife wanted to have a midwife, and we just connected, and he said, okay, you need to meet my wife. And I knew I had the job. So it's a storytelling, because people want to know that when you come in, they can connect with you. It just won't be a job. Sometimes your job is family. But I love that, because that's what I've done. I have no technical skills, but I've been in tech for years now, because I just find a way to connect with people. And I tell them how I can be part of their stories, how I can weave my life into their story, and why we need to make a bigger story. So yeah, and that's how I ended up where I am. And it's been a beautiful journey, but I just connect. I connect and let people know you need somebody with a psych degree here. You don't necessarily need a technical skills person, because this is what I can do. You want somebody that will bridge the gap and not come in and code, but can look at it from a different perspective, that can hear people, that hear what people are not even saying, that can walk in a room and listen, and different things like that. But yeah, that has got me a long way. That's why I was copying. Thank you for that, Chris. And I'm Queen, I'm done speaking.
Yes. And I'm sure when you told your story, you had that enthusiasm, that passion that you just had now. It's infectious. So like, don't underestimate the power of emotion when it comes to networking, when it comes to interviewing and storytelling, especially. So Nick and Soham, would love to get your thoughts on storytelling, the importance of it, you know, what you've seen in your career that's worked for you, and what you know, I guess, imparted in others to help them be successful from a storytelling standpoint. So Nick, I'll pass it to you, and then Soham, if you like.
Awesome. Yeah, great question. I guess I'm an Italian guy, so for me, I have a tendency to just keep speaking and keep speaking. So one thing about storytelling that I've learned is to really think about what are the key points that you want to get across, and try to be very clear at what those are, so that we don't lose people with too much detail. The other thing that I would say as well is to really study good storytellers. So a lot of really good stand-up comedians, they're great storytellers. Kevin Hart's one of my favorites, and you can see just like how they lead into stories and grab people's attention. And there's a great channel on YouTube for anybody who's who likes YouTube, called Charisma on Command, where they do these great breakdowns, and they do breakdowns of how The Rock tells stories and how Kevin Hart tells stories, and so I would just take a look at some of these and really try to think about, what do I want to get across in this story. Focus on that, and then practice it. Practice it in the mirror or whatever. If there's a good story, right? If it's a story that'll come up in an interview or networking, practice it, because you'll have multiple opportunities to bring that story back.
Awesome, man. I love how you took it to comedy. This is the surprising ways to get noticed. So you definitely surprised me with that one. I love it, Nick. And Soham, any thoughts on storytelling, when it comes to networking, interviewing, all of this?
Yeah, real quick, I think hard to add more value than what has already been added by some of these brilliant folks. As an interviewer, you have my attention, right? When you are in the interview you have my attention. And what am I really looking for? I'm really looking for stories, right? Like, stories is all what we live for, right? Like the Dead Poet Society, one of my favorite movies, if anybody remembers, like science, technology, engineering, all that is for sustaining life, but stories and poetry is what we live for, which is actually correct. More correct in interviews than anywhere else. And once, as an interviewer, once you have my attention, just give me the story. That's all I'm looking for. That's all everybody's looking for. That's what engages somebody. That's what draws attention and sort of holds you there. So learn storytelling, though. Like some of the speakers have said before, it is not an easy skill to develop. Practice and learn, and you will absolutely get better at it. That's all.
Awesome, man. Appreciate that. And let's see. Soham is one away from 1,000. Let's get this man to 1,000. Come on now. Check his bio out. Really look into it. And let's get this man to 1,000. All right. And make sure to click that greenhouse and follow this club. But let's keep it with some questions real quick. So, Sierra, I see that you are new to Clubhouse. So welcome to Clubhouse. What questions do you have for the panel, man? You have a lot of great people on the stage. So let it rip.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's my first time speaking, so very happy to have found this this Clubhouse. I think they're called, I don't know if they're channels or what, but I had a comment on something that Tiara said, and then also to add to what Soham was saying, and also thank Nick. With my experience, I think that what's so important is, Tiara mentioned quantifying your value. And if you can tie that add value that you have in your experience to your story, and then lead with your narrative, that really puts you in a position to then, not only you're giving your interviewer a story, but you're giving them points to go off of, so that you actually lead that conversation. You kind of give them space to ask you questions around things that you're an expert in. And I think that that's so powerful, because then they're not reaching through and thinking through scenarios. Okay, do they know about this? You kind of lead by your example and what you've added. And companies are always looking for add value and where that person is going to shine. And on top of that, I would say that showing that you can communicate that story, and it may be that your experience isn't directly in tech, it may be your first time, but if you can show how your skills translate into add value and into tech through communication, especially, because I think that's a really overlooked skill in tech, because we get so buried in details, but if you can't communicate a technical concept across teams or to share, then that that's a huge negative. So yeah, thank you for having me, and I'm done speaking.
Sierra sounding like a pro, first time on Clubhouse, and she's dropping the mic. So appreciate that. Welcome to Clubhouse.
I thought the same thing. Good job, Sierra.
Yeah, man. I was definitely not that polished. My first time speaking on Clubhouse.
Oh, thank you. I'm so nervous. I was like shaking.
Man, I could not tell. You look like you were solid as a rock. So you sounded solid as a rock. So everybody give her a follow. She obviously knows what she's talking about, and I'm sure her bio does not do her any justice yet. So yeah, definitely. Yeah, thank you for coming. Let's keep the questions going. So William, thank you for coming on the stage. Do you have a question or do you have a comment? Whichever one. Love to hear your thoughts.
Oh, great. Thank you very much. I have both. If you look at my my information, I am a STEAM teacher at a middle school, and our current project is for my students in each of my classes. I have 6 classes. In each class, I have between 25 and 32 kids. We are working on a project dealing with the students selecting future careers. And I tell you what, all these gems of information, I'm trying to type them and write them down to share with my students during the last couple of weeks of school about why it's important to select a career that they are adapted to through education, through their talents and skills and abilities. And y'all just don't know how beneficial this information is. And I want to applaud everybody that's giving ideas and gems and just information, because it's touching my heart that I'm going into my classes tomorrow and next week with information from experts, not just from my experience being a teacher for 32 years and having my little tech company, but from experts in all these areas that we talk about in class. So I really appreciate it. And I just want to know from someone that has, experience working with young people, what other information can I give my students to inspire them to stay in technical careers and the value of getting additional education? Because sometimes they think, well, I'll just get a bachelor's or master's and stop right there. But what can I continue to tell them to reinforce the value of education and to keep going and keep climbing for, not necessarily just for degrees, but certifications and other things that they may need in their lives? And this is William, and I'm signing off.
William, thank you so much for those kind words. That really makes, the time we spend on here feel even more gratifying than it already has. And Yvonne, I'm not sure if you were clapping or you wanted to respond, but, I know education is very near and dear to Sabrina's heart as well. A lot of people out here. So whoever wants to jump in, let's give William some inspirational tidbits to bring back to students.
Hi, William. I came from a nonprofit background with kids, and one of the things that is important is that it's okay to love science and not to want to be the the one that's out there, the one that once the social media follows. It's okay to love that. And the one thing that it's important, it's okay. What I noticed that we're not at the table are the internships. We need to teach our youth to get connected with internships. What I noticed is, as I was working in tech, is that I would see these young, amazing people coming in from high school or getting involved in some way, but they never connected to a tech opportunity as an intern. So I was intentional to make sure that my friends and my son's friends and everybody, he goes to Howard University. And he got his first internship. I felt, and so does his friends, at a tech company here. But it was hard because sometimes I just assume, hey, you got the network, just work it. But he needed to the guidance, and if we have that ability to connect them, even for a summertime or a semester, we need to be present to be able to do that. The one thing that I also like, I like being involved with here, at least in the Bay Area, what I do is Black Girls Who Code. Great nonprofit that teach kids how to code. There are various different versions of it, but the one that I really love is I do work very closely with Black Girls Who Code. I'm Yvonne, and I'm done speaking.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And I just wanted to add, I'm here in Jacksonville, Florida, and our middle school is so diverse. We have kids from all over the world. So that makes teaching even more pleasant because we have Hispanics, we have kids from the Caribbean, we have kids from Europe, from Asia, Africa. So just empowering them, makes my work, even more of a blessing. So thank you for sharing that.
William, there is a chapter of Black Girls Who Code, I know, in Florida. They're nationwide. I think they're pushing to worldwide. So the last couple of years, they've been doing a lot of the sessions virtually. So I encourage you to reach out to them to set up an opportunity in the school.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. I sure will.
Hey, William,
Hey,
it's
William.
Meg. Oh, sorry, Sabrina, go ahead.
No, you go.
Oh wait, I'll be quick. Hey William, thanks so much. This is really the essence of why I sit in these rooms is for people that are trying to improve other people's lives and elevate others. And I'm going to approach this conversation from a mom perspective because I do have a young son right now who is struggling with math and science and technology in this world of online learning right now, but is so incented by Minecraft, Roblox, Kids Messenger, all of these other tools that help him stay connected to his peers and that bring him joy. But he doesn't see the connection between what he's learning right now and how that impacts his life in terms of the tools he uses on a day-to-day basis to interact and have joy and fun with his peers. So what I try to do is teach him that there are opportunities like within tech, because I'm a mom that works in tech and he doesn't really understand what I do, but there are opportunities for him to build a product like Kids Messenger at Facebook, or to improve the performance of Minecraft or Roblox or whatever the case may be for the students that you're teaching. So connecting a real world problem for your students or a real world joy for your students right now, where they can be impactful to solving that or improving that or creating something entirely new, I think is really key to connecting children to tech, because I just don't think they get the bigger picture. And I'm speaking from a mom of a child who's in middle school, not necessarily like the latter grades or like undergraduate programs. But I think like connecting real world problems to what they can accomplish academically and what the steps they need to take to be able to affect that is key. And thanks so much for the work you do. I appreciate you and I'm glad you're here. That's Megan.
Right.
I'm done speaking.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much. Yeah, I've been doing a lot of work with them, and my program is project-based. So that way I try my best to have them see the value in what they're learning and how they can apply their skills to future careers. And, ironically, we've been talking about the SpaceX and NASA and Mars, and interesting enough, China, I believe, has launched their own version of the space station. So now we have even more to talk about, international engagement with science and tech. Thank you.
Hey, William, I want to just piggyback on that. This is Sabrina Alvin. I am a certified career coach. And one of the things I do in my community is I volunteer at the high schools, and I work with seniors that are pivoting into what's next for them. If it's not college, then what's next? If it's college, what's next? And also work with some of the HBCUs here in Atlanta around career coaching. And one of the things I would suggest is look at, figure out what each student wants to do and show them that in every career you choose, there's a STEM element or a technology element. If it's music, if it's football or sports or basketball or whatever they do, there's a technology element. And then maybe having them look at careers titles within those companies or those industries, and they'll see that STEM is everywhere. So you can't get away from STEM. Even if you were a cashier at Walmart, you're still in a technology company because we're all technologists. So that's how I start off when I'm coaching, doesn't matter what your career wants to be, what you want to be in your career. And I'm sorry, it's late here. But technology and STEM is everywhere. So if you want to have an impact on how our world's going to be moved and help shape the way the world is going, then STEM and technology is the way to go. So I'm Sabrina. I'm done speaking.
This is
Thank
Marty.
you, Sabrina. I appreciate it. I am a proud graduate of South Carolina State University. Go HBCUs, and I appreciate that.
Clark Atlanta University. Clark Atlanta.
Thank you. Yes, Marty.
Yeah, hi. I just wanted, I think what William's doing and some of the other folks is really noble. And, if the kids are passionate about technology, doesn't matter if they're not the greatest mathematician. In business, technology, it isn't critical. But if they're passionate about technology and they stick with it, they're never going to work a day in their life. They're just going to go. I've done it my whole career. I go to work and I play. So they should really stick with it if they love it. This is Marty. I'm complete.
Love that, Marty.
Hey,
And that-
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Megan.
Oh, no, I was just gonna say I love that, Marty. Like the message, like go to work and you play and you don't work a day in your life if you're doing something you love, is such a huge message for kids who are trying to get through like the laborious process of degrees. So yeah. Anyway, sorry. Go ahead, TR.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say just a little bit even about my background. This honestly reminds me of my father. So I grew up with a single father back in Philly. And even like at 10 years old, he ingrained in me like the importance of having a resume. So when I was in high school, I completed a few internships. And so when I actually graduated from college, I had a few years of experience. So William, I would say if you could just stress to your own students like the importance of them taking advantage, even if it's volunteer work, they can highlight that. They can highlight all of this, just the importance of getting ahead because it's so competitive. Like it was competitive when I was like, honestly, like even like not even like 5 to 6 years ago. So I can only imagine what it's going to be like 5 to 10 years from now. So yeah. So if you ever like need any resources, we are all more than willing to help you.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Yeah, no problem.
And I'm from Philly also.
I love that. Where did you go to high school at?
Actually, I went to high school with my mom in Camden, New Jersey.
Oh no, that's not okay. That's all good. I graduated from Central. Yeah, that's awesome.
Oh yeah, we lived around the corner from Central.
Come on now, yes.
All right.
All right. Well, man, the energy in this room, the information, amazing. Thank you to everybody on the stage. Thank you to the moderators. Thank you to the host, Great Careers in Tech. So right now they're at 794 followers. I think we got 118 people in this room. Let's get this to 850 followers because we do these rooms every single week. The amount of value that you got in this room is priceless. William, thank you so much for coming up. You're an inspiration and we need more men like you, and definitely gonna hit your DMs and see how I can support you in Jacksonville in terms of just getting mentors and resources. So look out for that. But everybody, go ahead and click that greenhouse at the top, follow the club, make sure you follow all the moderators, follow all these amazing people from Microsoft, Google, Facebook, LinkedIn, Dystopia, etc. And before we go, Marty, I just wanted to give you a chance to drop some gems or ask a question. I see you're a 14-time best-selling nonfiction author, TEDx invitee, a critical technology solutions innovator for a $21 billion enterprise company. So the topic of break into the tech, surprising ways to get noticed, want to give you a chance to just drop a gem, and then we're going to close it out. So Marty, you got it.
I appreciate it, Jared. And I know it's late and it's past midnight here in New York, so I'm going to be really brief. But what I was going to suggest is this. In your search, look in the path less traveled. So the obvious ones, yes, look in big tech, look in finance, but also include logistics, manufacturing, distribution. I went from finance to distribution, and I was shocked about how these companies are going digital now. They're going into AI, they're going into ML, AR, they're going into big data and IoT. And it's a little bit less friction going into those verticals, and you could stay there and build an unbelievable career, or then you can go up to the biggies, Google and Adobe's. That's my suggestion. This is Marty. I am complete.
That's super great advice, Marty.
Marty ending it on a high note. So yeah, just want to give Soham and Nick just the final thoughts. And yeah, let everybody know what you got going on and any final thoughts on this topic. So let's start with Nick, and then we'll go to Soham. So Nick, you got the floor.
I just want to thank everybody for their contributions tonight. I think the information here is incredibly valuable and really difficult to find elsewhere. And wanted to give Jared a shout out as well, because man, a moderation job like that's no easy feat, man. That was super smooth. So I want to thank you in particular for the great work that you did tonight. You know, the only thing I have to really summarize here is that if you want to advance in your career, right, it's definitely possible. There's a lot of tactics that you can use to advance yourself. You just got to work hard, right? And you have to have some guidance from people who you know can provide some structure and show you how to get there. And so especially for software engineers, if there is anything that we can do to support you in your journey as you're going through your career transition, please feel free to check us out. You can see us at interviewkickstart.com. Feel free to follow our clubhouse here. We have plenty of events like this. If you're not in tech specifically, you know, like Jared was saying, a lot of the speakers that we had on stage here today specialize in other types of roles within the tech industry. So, you know, follow them as well. But I just want to thank everybody for spending the night with us. You were all incredibly generous with your time. And I hope it was valuable. See y'all soon.
Awesome, Nick. Appreciate that. And Soham, any final thoughts before we go ahead and close the room down?
No, very difficult to top what Nick closed with. Jared, thank you very much for a wonderful room. Thanks everybody for dropping real gems tonight. This is one of the best rooms I've been in as well. And just like one hill I'm going to die on is to practice. Whether you're getting into tech, whether you are already in tech and trying to get into a better company, like practice, understand and practice, understand and practice. Check out Interview Kickstart as well if you're already in. We'll be happy to help. Thanks, Jared. Appreciate it.
Awesome. And actually, I got a DM, and I just would feel bad if I didn't ask you this question, Soham. How do you get over nervousness when interviewing? Any quick little gem for that one?
How do you get over nervousness? We have actually done a session on this. Search our YouTube channel on Interview Kickstart YouTube channel. Generally, the idea is to really just, you know, accept that you're nervous. Step one, accept that you're nervous. Many people don't accept that they're nervous. Half the battle is to just accept that, yes, you're nervous, and that's okay. And everybody gets nervous. I get nervous after many years of speaking as well. A different audience, different situations, different types of nervousness, like happens to everybody. So that's a normal thing. Accept that. One, and two, practice. Put yourself in a situation as close as you can to the real one, and just continue to practice. And at some point, you will get over the nerves. Like you will get a handle over the nerves. You will get those nerves. You'll catch those nerves by the tail. So that is really the only way to do this. Like there's no hack as such. Like don't resort to any sort of hacks or medicine, things like that. Just accept and practice. That's all I have for that.
All right, Naveen, I snuck that one in at the buzzer for you. Hopefully you appreciate that. And Soham, where can they find that YouTube video?
Interview Kickstart channel. Just search for Interview Kickstart on YouTube, and yeah, we'll find it. And we can also post it on the YouTube channel. This is being live streamed on YouTube as well, so we can post it in the comments too.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, yeah, thank you so much, everybody, for coming in. We're going to close the room out now, but before we do, make sure you tap on everybody's bio, give them a follow. That's the best way, the most surprising way, not surprising way to get noticed in tech is to actually follow the speakers on the stage. They'll get notified who you are. They're going to click into your bio. They may go to your LinkedIn. you never know, they might slide in your DMs. But if you don't make that contact, you don't make that connection, there's no way that you will get noticed. And then if you keep on popping up in their rooms, like for instance, I see a lot of familiar faces in the audience, like my girl Jane, I see Anu, I see Chanel, I see Samori, I see Nate. So I see people all the time. So when they reach out, I feel like they're familiar. So make sure that you're popping in people's rooms, you're taking notes, and you're getting a better understanding of what it takes to break into all these amazing companies like Amazon, LinkedIn, Facebook, Google, Deloitte, all the companies that have popped on the stage. And definitely check out Interview Kickstart, understand what they offer, and see if they can help you be more competitive in the space. They have a lot of experience. They have great results. So definitely go ahead and check them out. So I'm going to give the room 30 more seconds. So just go ahead and click bios, follow people, click that greenhouse, follow the club, and everybody have a great night. And we'll see you in the next room. So thanks, everybody. All right, we're going to shut the room down in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Good night, everybody. Thank you.
Good night.
Thanks,
Good
Jared.
night.
Not everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Stephanie,
Good night,
proceed. You
everybody.
can, Stephanie, you want to end the room just so you get credit?
Of course. Thank you.